Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Airsoft Alan. Welcome, of course, to a very long-awaited episode of How Combat Effective Is It? And before anyone asks, why am I doing this in October when I should be releasing another review? Well, to be frank, that damn Glock has been giving me some demonic voices and what have you, and I really don't want to touch it at the moment until I feel like I'm actually ready to talk about it. So, today I want to actually not mess with something bad and actually talk about something really good, really interesting, and overall just ask the question, how combat effective is the Israeli 4A1 civilian mask, or respirator, or whatever the hell you guys want to call it, or whatever the nomenclature is for it. More or less, we're going to talk about how combat effective the mask is, and whether or not it's a viable option for in case, well, you can't afford something much more better, and it just, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, what is the 4A1, you're asking? Why am I not holding it? Well, the 4A1 is in this bag. The 4A1 is an Israeli civilian mask, and it's something that, honestly, is kinda, well, alien in question. Now, let's just go ahead and get a big thing out of the way. Yes, you have seen this in certain videos that you watch with incognito mode on, and sort of fits your kinks.
Oh my.
I don't judge. Not gonna judge. You do you behind closed doors with incognito mode on, alright? You do you, buddy. You do you. But what I will say is that this mask does have an alien look to it and an alien feel, sort of giving that vibe of the old mask that we would see back in the day, or at least sort of that menacing mask that you would see, especially this mask showing up in movies such as Ultraviolet, the live-action Black Butler, well, a lot of Japanese movies, ironically enough, you see this mask in, like, no joke. Look at a lot of Japanese action-based movies with a lot of, like, chemical weapon plots, too. And you see this mask pop up a lot in Japan. This mask is also the basis for the bong mask, for those who, of course, like to get that puff-puff, that integrity. And I'll just say it, this mask is essentially like an AR-15. It is almost on par with the GP5, except this has more of a mainstream media appeal because of how many shows, movies, video games, bong shops, and other places it's popped up on. While in the Slavic community, the GP5 is more prevalent than the 4A1. So, in a weird sense, this is the Western world's equivalent of the GP5, while the GP5 is the Slavic world's equivalent to the 4A1. It's a weird thing if you actually notice it in terms of a cultural standpoint, but it is there nonetheless. Now, the big thing about this mask is that the filter it comes with is sort of like the GP5 filter. It's definitely got that 90s feel to it, with the ribbed top and bottom. However, the filter itself, when compared to other more modern filters, is pretty small in comparison. Now, I know everyone and their mother's going to come up in the comment section saying, oh, it's because of the civilian mask. Either way, though, I'm not going to talk about the history of it. I'm just going to ask the question of if it's good for combat or if it's any combat effective. Now, the filter itself is out of date. Well, particularly this one is out of date because it's dated March 94. Well, March 23rd, 94, because this thing actually went out of date 2 days after I was born in March 21st, 1994. So, oh, and this will fit in GP5 and Goth-style threads, so this will fit in Soviet-style mask or Russian-style mask, or really any mask at all that take Goth-style filters. Moving on, though. Talking about the mask itself, the mask is made of mostly rubber. The only polymer parts are, of course, the thread, the threading here where the filter would go in, the cover here for the voice diaphragm, and just the whole body itself that encases the voice diaphragm. The voice diaphragm being metal, which is honestly kind of interesting to say the least. Inside the mask, well, the only other polymer part is, of course, the clips themselves. The water intake, which where you drink your water, the valve inside that is inside the actual mask itself. Now, the lens are polycarbonate and ballistic rated. I know this because, besides research and actually emailing the company itself that still make these, yes, these are still being made, you can still buy these brand new, out of the box, with in-date filters, the lens themselves are in fact ballistic rated. So, in a sense, you can actually take this into airsoft. So there's one check mark out of the way. But then again, if you actually carefully watch videos, be it Jet Desert Fox, Brain Exploder, or any of the other airsoft channels, the big airsoft channels, you actually do see these masks pop up a lot in airsoft because of the ballistic rated lens. And the cool part is that this mask is actually easy to maintain and disassemble. What I mean by that is that pulling these straps, which is a 5-point head harness, let me just go ahead and try and flip it inside out. There we go. The lens can be removed and replaced thanks to a couple Phillips head screws. So that's another point right there for the 4A1 of actually being good. The chin area right here is a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable if you don't tighten it down tight enough to where it's purposely restricting you from talking. That's the only real downside I can think of. The oral nasal cup is also really good and can be removed and replaced if you need to. And the whole system itself is actually good. Now, enough of my gabbing, let's go ahead and actually put on the mask and do a shouldering test to kind of see what weapons platforms it can take and what weapon platforms it has a hard time, well, with, to say the least. To do this, we're going to pop on the filter to actually give the whole experience of a sorts. Once again, you want to make sure that's actually tight on there, which, a little bit of force, yes, it does come undone a little bit, but it is sealed on there pretty good. Once again, I am starting to feel the restrictiveness of my actual jawline, so I'm going to just loosen it up a bit. There we go. Alright, so now we actually have the mask on, and it is pressurized. And breathing in this thing actually causes air to go over my face, sort of like the Finish M61 V2, where it actually gives you a simulated sort of air conditioning of sorts. Now, understand that the oral nasal cup is not making contact with my actual face, so the possibility of fogging is real. And there is condensation in the actual mask itself, so you are going to feel a little bit of sweat in there, but then again, that's most masks. Now, depending on the actual ability you're able to hear me at, I'm not adjusting the volume whatsoever. This is the actual voice level you're hearing me at, so that's actually a good thing. Now, let's go ahead and grab a weapon system that is abundant in the US of A, the AR-15 platform, or Armalite platform. So let's go ahead and go with the classic A1 and see if it shoulders good with the actual mask itself. Alright, here we are with the M16A1, my Magpul PTS M16A1. Let's see if it shoulders good. With this right here, it does get in the way a little bit, but not too bad. In fact, you can actually angle it pretty good thanks to the carry handle sight. I can make clear visual distinction of where I'm actually supposed to shoot. But if I really want to, it's definitely not restrictive in terms of actually getting a sight picture and trying to acquire a target. Now let's go with the more carbine variant of the AR-15. This right here is my personal M4 style airsoft gun. This is something I've got currently set up, but that could change. Now I do have an optic on here, and we are going to test whether or not I can actually see the optic. But right now we're going to see if I can acquire the sights on this, and if it's a little bit easier for me to do so. So, acquiring iron sights. Yes, it is actually not hard to acquire iron sights. Now what about optics? Yes, I can acquire optics relatively good, so that's another perk. Let's go with something a little bit more Slavic, shall we? Here we have an AK-74 SU with a underfolding stock. Let's see if I actually acquire irons on this, because I'm a little curious on that. Yes, I can actually. Let me raise the front sight a bit, because that might actually help a little. The filter is starting to get a little bit in the way. Oy vey. There we go, 200 yards. Let's go with 200 yards. There we go. The actual water thing right here is getting in the way of trying to shoulder, but not acquiring the sights pretty good. I can actually acquire sights all right with an AK, but then again, that's because the sights are set up this way with this particular model. Let's go with an AK-12 and actually see if if I'm still able to acquire iron sights with that style of an AK. AK-12 with the iron sight set up like an M16, or at least like an AR-15 style. Let's see how it does. Yes, I am able to acquire irons. Has my seal been broken? Nope. Still got a seal. I have the ability to acquire irons. No problem. No problem whatsoever. Now let's go to a more Swedish style gun, i.e. a SIG. At least I think it's Swedish. It might be Sweden. I don't know. Either way though, we're going with the SIG platform next to see if I can acquire irons with that. Here we have a CYMA SIG Sire 552 Commando, not 552, 553 Commando, with a SIG style sights on it. Let's see if I can actually acquire these. Yes, a lot better actually, and I'm not feeling as cramped as I did with the other guns. I have full open sights and I can see pretty good. Not bad actually. The next gun is one that might be a little bit odd for most, but not for me. It is a revolver carbine. So let's see if we can acquire sights on this. Hit the filter. That's the first gun I hit the filter on. Alright, let's see. Yep, and I'm not feeling much crampness, but it is slight discomfort. But I am able to acquire iron sights. Not bad. Next up, the SRU bullpup kit. Can I acquire irons? Yes. Yes. No problem acquire irons. Very nice actually. Not bad. Moving on to the next bullpup. The next bullpup is my JG AUG. Can I acquire, well, somewhat irons? If I had iron sights on here, yes, I could actually, because I am lining up this right here, so I can actually somewhat see down it. It's not bad. The final gun is the JG Star Dragon. Now, what's cool about this gun is that the buttstock is specifically designed to help the user's cheek actually be comfortable and allow you to have a good shouldering and line up the sights pretty good on the weapon itself. So, will I actually be able to acquire irons with this and get a good sight picture on this gun? Let's find out. Nope, I cannot. Wait, if I really push my cheek down, yes, I can somewhat, but the issue is the way the stock is designed. There we go. If I really push my face down, I can actually acquire iron sight, but not to a great degree. So this one's a semi-fail because I have to really push my cheek on there to actually acquire iron sights. Now, moving on. In terms of visibility, I have the same visibility of the GP5. However, it's a little better than the GP5 because I can actually see somewhat down this way. I can see about here, and I can see about here. But then again, that's the way this style of mask is designed, with these rounded lens instead of a more open lens. So that's just how it is. In terms of the mask itself, the 4A1 is actually pretty decent. Yes, it will take getting used to on the chin area because the chin is so designed to basically lock in there, but at the same time a lot of you are going to speak up saying, oh, because it's a civilian mask. Well, that's not really the point of the show, to actually and to basically call out the same thing over and over again. This is more or less to see if it's combat effective. In terms of communication, I can actually clearly hear myself, and you can probably clearly hear me as well. In terms of sight picture, while yes, on the ARs and the AKs, I can actually get a clear line of sight, in terms of other guns, I was actually surprised that it was able to still get a clear line of sight, especially on the AUG. On the JG Star Dragon, not so much. But then again, that's just because the way the stock is designed. And that's more or less how it is. Now, let's actually take this out to the range and sort of, more or less, load up a magazine full, and we're going to actually see how this thing does on a shooting range. Now, I'm going to load up a couple magazines and do 3 mag swaps out of this. While wearing the mask, I'm going to be doing a shooting test where I walk, fire a couple shots, walk, fire a couple shots, drop the mag, load the mag, and keep going until finally I get to a point where I'm just going to do walking fire and more or less just try and keep rounds inside the BB catcher. Now, this isn't about groupings or anything. This is more or less to see if I can actually keep the rounds in the BB catcher. So, with that said, let's actually go to the range and see how that does.
Alright folks, this is it. Literally there is a target down that way that I will be shooting at, and you'll be able to see it via this little bad boy right here. So, let's get set up, make sure everything's working, and yeah, this should be interesting. Let's do this, folks. Alright, so I'll admit that sucked. That's primarily because of the hop up and the BB, so I was still able to get an effective target on with the reticle itself, but because of the hop up and the BBs, I wasn't able to land my shots on there. I did have the reticle on the target, but I couldn't land my shots on the target, so take that what you will. But the mask itself does not obstruct my ability to move and shoot, which is actually pretty nice. Anyhow, back to the studio and let's get the final verdict on this thing.
Many of you are probably wondering my final thoughts on the 4A1 and how it performed as a whole. In my opinion, the 4A1 is actually a pretty effective mask. Not only was I able to keep shots on target, not only was it actually pretty easy for me to keep the rifle shouldered, and the fact that I was able to acquire target pretty good, quickly, and effectively after magazine transition, which that's to say a lot for you right there. I'm happy to say that the mask is in fact combat effective. It is very effective. The mask as a whole, while yes having this alien design, you could actually use. And the fact that it can take both NATO and Gauss threading is another plus in itself. So you can actually buy Soviet-style tubing, more or less, the gas mask tubes that would attach to a Soviet mask that you could actually run in a bag. You could do like a World War I style where you have this big industrial filter attached to that tubing, attach it to here, have it on your face, that way you have a tube running into a bag, so that way you have not only more or less flexibility, but in a more trench-style warfare, if you are stuck in the trenches, this mask will actually do pretty well. In terms of an urban environment, yes, having more or less detachable and portable filters will be good for you, because in an urban setting, especially during urban combat, this mask will actually work very well if you have a very competent team. And just like with the GP5 with the rounded lens, really any mask with rounded lens, in order for it to be very effective, you have to know that your team around you who might be wearing the same mask has your back, is watching your six, is watching all directions, and moreover, essentially, is making sure that they're keeping you alive as you are keeping them alive. In terms of airsoft, this is actually a really good, effective mask. Like I said, the fact that it's already being used in airsoft is a statement in of itself. The polycarbonate lens is able to be replaced with other polycarbonate lenses that are more ballistic rated. So if you want to do that, I do recommend you do that. Or if you want, buy this from the factory itself. They go anywhere between $30 to $70 depending on which buyer you're getting it from. But if you're getting it directly from the factory, it's between $50 and $60. Now, everyone's going to raise hell in the comments section saying, what the hell? That's more or less shipping and handling. That's where the majority of that money is going towards. The $50 to $60 is shipping and handling, straight from the company itself. And I would recommend anyone to actually buy straight from the company itself, because buying these from the company that still produces them is a better option than buying it secondhand or from a non-licensed dealer who actually are selling these masks. And I'll be honest, I probably will do a video, will do gameplay of me in this mask. But either way. Next time on How Combat Effective Is It? It's the last episode, which will put the show on another hiatus. It is, in fact, the Draeger mask, the M65 Draeger. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, next time will be the last episode until I get more masks in my collection and do more episodes on. So if you want to help out the show as a whole, consider donating to the PayPal down below, which will allow us to actually get more masks into the collection. And for those of you who actually do have gas masks and do play airsoft and actually want to help out, continue the series of How Combat Effective Is It, then consider commenting down below, or if you're on our Discord, hit me up, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you all for watching. As always, I've been Airsoft Al, and I will see all you lovely people in the next episode. Till next time.